1580, the Terry Claiborne Foundation presents its 26th annual holiday party, Saturday, December 9th, featuring live entertainment, celebrity appearances, plus food and drinks. There is a cover charge for this party of the season, but not if you're one of our special guests. All you have to do is go to our website at KBLA1580.com and sign up. That's it, that's all. Just sign up at KBLA1580.com and you could win entrance to the soiree of the season. But whether you win or not, get a ticket, support the kids, and come join us on the red carpet in your semi-formal club attire and celebrate the season with KBLA Talk 1580 and the Terry Claiborne Foundation as we collect toys for the youth in our community. That's Saturday, December 9th, 1110 South La Cienega Boulevard, just south of Olympic. It's a holiday party with a purpose.
I'm Terry Claiborne. It's going to be a party. Come hang out with us.
Rakim mistake. Rakim mistake. Rakim mistake. Follow the leader. 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 Rakim mistake.
Follow me into a solo, get in the flow, and you can picture like a photo. Music makes mellow, maintains to make melodies for MCs, motivation to breaks them everlasting. I can go on for days and days with rhyme displays that engrave deep as x-rays. I can take a phrase that's rarely heard, flip it, now it's a daily word. I can get iller than arm, a killer and bomb, but no alarm. Rakim will remain calm. Self-esteem make me super superb and supreme. Before a microphone, still I fiend. This was a tape. I wasn't supposed to break. I was supposed to wait, but let's motivate.
The R.
Keep following and swallowing.
Rakim definitely has some guts. Keep following the lead. Eric B for president. Listen, are you a hip hop fan? Are you into? Do you remember? Not even into. Do you remember Eric B and Rakim? It's like 86, 87-ish out there. We're going to get into if he is a game changer in the world of hip hop. You were locked into Hour 3 of RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Before we jumped ahead, we were discussing Russell Simmons and the changes in environment from the 90s to now. A lot of things for the better, but it is a different environment. Kendi in the chat brought up that he feels as though the reason why one of the complaints that women currently have is that men aren't as aggressive, and he feels that it is a direct relation to what has happened. And I do think that to a degree it does. I've heard conversations and complaints that some men don't feel comfortable approaching women or having certain conversations because they don't want things to be misconstrued. They don't even feel comfortable really complimenting a woman because they don't want anyone to take it as they are trying to, trap them, pin them down or whatever. And it's really not the case. It's just a compliment. So I think that as our conversations around consent continue to evolve, I guess for the younger generation, better rules will shape up. Not that it doesn't impact the older ones, but I think when you think about a lot of things in that area, a lot of people's ideas are set in stone pretty much. By the time they're in their 30s and 40s, they've kind of crystallized their thinking as far as relationships and things of that nature. So I'm not sure. Urban Spinster in the chat says, I was watching an episode of Law & Order SVU where a young boy was sexually assaulting his classmates, male and female. He was watching porn and getting social cues from the actors. No means yes. I think that that's why I think it's important to have conversations and real conversations, because you also have to be open to the idea that for some, right, there is something that a person you consider attractive, they might be able to get away with a little bit more heavy flirting, a comment that you may not want to hear from someone that you aren't as attracted to may ring differently from someone that you find attractive. And we have to talk about that, and we have to figure out where the safe area is. I don't even know if that's really an accurate term, but we do. So listen, before we get into this Rakim topic, really quickly, in a what the heck is going on with people, a 26-year-old woman tried to set fire in Atlanta to the childhood home of Martin Luther King Jr. She was spotted pouring gasoline on the bushes and the windows. Two tourists saw her and they attempted to interrupt her. And then there were also a police officer that just happened to be in the area that helped contain her. But there's video of it, and Atlanta Police Chief Darren Schneierbaum, I think that's how you pronounce it, Schneierbaum, said that the action of these individuals saved an important part of American history. What are y'all doing? Why would you want to burn down Martin Luther King Jr.'s house? I don't understand. It's just madness. It's madness in the world. At any rate, let's get into this Rakim topic. Also, don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you download the KBLA app, because the interviews that we have coming from Candy Cane Lane with Chris Redd, Robin Thede, DC Young Fly, and Jillian Bell, they will not be airing on YouTube. So, just so you know, you're going to be listening to those at the break. So listen, Rakim, he dropped in about 86, you know. They're definitely I'm trying to think, what samples did Rakim use heavily in his music? Because there definitely was samples in it. But do you feel like he changed the game? In a recent interview with Ed Lover, right? Yes, that Ed Lover of Yo MTV Raps. He was sharing how he believes that when Rakim dropped, he's changed the sound of hip hop. He changed the way that MCs delivered their lyrics. He said that prior to Rakim, everything was very staccato, very you know, you tried to make each word rhyme, and that with Rakim, you had to think, you had to really listen to the lyrics and put everything together to really understand and respect where he was coming from. So let's take a listen to what Ed Lover had to say about Rakim and giving him his flowers.
To give him his flowers, may I?
Yes,
But people don't understand Rakim changed hip hop. He's a game changer. There's certain moments in hip hop that you can say people changed the game, right? You can say that Melanin, Flash and them changed it. Then Run DMC changed it. They stripped it down, right? LL came in, became the first solo single superstar sex symbol hip hop had ever had. Rakim changed it because everything became less aggressive. Think about the way he rhymed, his rhyme patterns, things that he said that no MC had ever said, the way he put words together. It just wasn't bop, 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 lyric, bop, 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 that rhymes with that rhyme. He changed it. And he quieted it down and made us listen as well as enjoy the music, but you listen to what Rakim said, right? You heard 7 MCs in a line, 7 more brothers that think they can rhyme, take 7 more before I go for mine. That's 21 MCs ate up at the same time. You had to go, wait a minute, 7 times 3, that's 21. You know, you had to. Turn it around. And I remember, what was the line you said, I'm the R, turn it around, it still comes out R.
My name is Rakim Allah, R-A stand for raw. Switch it around, still comes out R.
Now think about it. Come on now. Everything was hurrah, aggression, everything. Rakim single-handedly, if you would do a family tree of hip hop and people that came directly from other people, there is no Jay-Z, there's no Biggie, there's no Nas. That smoothed out style of rhyming came from Rakim.
So listen, when we come forward, I'll share my thoughts with that, because I don't think Ed is wrong, but I think I would have described it differently. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into your comments in the chat. All of that and more. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So we're talking 80s hip hop. We're talking Rakim. Rakim will say peace. Eric B for president. Check out my melody. Microphone fiend. Mahogany. Rakim had some joints. But I do disagree with the idea that Rakim's voice wasn't aggressive. I'll get into that in a second. Urban Spencer in the chat, thank you for having my back. I asked what songs Rakim sampled. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head, but I knew he had extensively, because if you think about that time in hip-hop, most of the releases were not original music. They were flipped samples and tracks, and it's when sampling started to take off. So she pointed out Average White Band Schoolboy Crush sample on Microphone Fiend, which I do remember quite a bit. I know he had to have a James Brown sample. I think every rapper that came out in the early 80s had some type of James in their repertoire. Forensic Accountant says Rakim absolutely changed the game. Additionally, I'm still trying to figure out what Pac meant when he mentioned Rakim among the rappers whose style he mastered. You know that this is a no Pac slander zone. We don't allow it here. So keep those comments off the chat line. No, I'm just playing. But it is a no Pac slander zone. You know that. But I think the thing about Rakim is I do think he had wordplay. He, LL had clever wordplay. I think Run DMC had a version of it, but it was very crude as, the art form developed. Rakim was clever. Ed Lover was right. He did make you think. He very much dropped those metaphors and analogies into his rap to make it more creative. And I think that that is something that we saw early from him. His voice always sounded like a grown man, even if he was a very young man at the time when they dropped. I think I shared back in the day that my cousin used to date Eric B. So actually, I guess it was about 89 or 90, I got a chance to meet them and kind of hang out. And I'm not sure how old Rakim is, but he very much to me, I was about 16 or 17 at the time. I could look at him and felt like, oh, that's a grown up, even though, he probably in theory wasn't that much older than me. And I just felt like he seemed to be deep. Um, Maybe now I don't want to drop this, but I think you guys will get what I mean. Don't get offended. The early makings of a hotep, if you want to say so, because he was really talking the 5%er thing, the math. He was introducing concepts that weren't in the common lexicon, I feel, if you were not, somehow introduced to the Muslim religion some other way, like you had your ideas from mainstream society, if at all. And I feel like he, brought some different food for thought into that conversation. But that was obviously on the crux when everybody was really into. We used to have those t-shirts all up and down Crenshaw, probably all in the swap meets, the respect and protect the black woman, love and support the black man. I may be having that backwards, but you get the idea. Lots of Farrakhan speeches and things of that nature. So listen, Urban Spinster also said, don't look any further, paid in full. That is a good one. Don't look any further. That's a jam. A cocaine jam, but a jam all the less. Really funny. I feel like, as we get further and further away from the 80s, which, do you consider the 80s or the 90s the golden age of hip hop? When I say golden age, I mean that part that is beloved, the early makings of it when it's taken off and you see that it is evolving and it's going to be something, but it's not at critical mass yet. I feel like the mid to late 90s are when we started getting to that. And I think 2000 TRL hip hop is like peak pinnacle as far as popularity and just everywhere, and when another shift started happening. Forensic Accountant says, I think the Beastie Boys deserve to be mentioned as game changers. I'm proud to be a golden ager. The Beastie Boys were absolutely game changing, but I think that that is obvious, and I think that that is not something that is kind of overlooked. They were game changers because there were three white Jewish guys that were busting on the scene. I don't know anybody from that time period that wasn't bumping Paul Revere and Brass Monkey. Those were two hood cups. They were actually a group that you could rock Beastie Boys in the hood and you would see, hear their music at some frat parties at the same time. I think that they, brought in that type of thing. But I don't think that there's a group that people would consider as far as a change maker, someone that doesn't get acknowledged or gets passed over. I think it's very clear why the Beastie Boys are considered change makers in that aspect. Urban Spencer said Dennis and that twisted mouth chewing gum. Hilarious. Forensic Account says Golden Age to me was 1986 to 1993. I think that sounds like a good time period. And Urban Spencer says Hold It Now is my jam at Forensic Account. Hold It Now. Hit it. Listen, License to Ill got big play. The cassette. This was before CDs, excuse me. The cassettes definitely got big run in my household. And Forensic Account says Brass Monkey was my pep assembly turn out jam on my alto sax. See, taking it all the way back to our early conversation. It all comes together, it all fits in. But I do think that Rakim, I don't think that he gets enough flowers, but I also think it's because for whatever reason, over the past 10 to 15 years, hip hop, in a lot of ways, even though it evolved and there's a lot of things that are happening, I feel like the aesthetic, the thought process, the style was really focused on the 90s. And we didn't really move out of that time period. So if you did, and Rakim did have a hit in the 90s. He had Know the Ledge, which was on the Juice soundtrack. He also had Mahogany, which I think was on a soundtrack for something else, but I know it was on his I can't remember the name of that album. I think it dropped in like 90, 91 or something like that. And there's another track on there. But I feel like because, Rakim had label issues, he kind of dropped out of the public eye as far as, still dropping tracks. He's gotten back in the mix as of late, but I think he's not someone that really the younger generation is aware of. Because I'm always surprised, not surprised, but when you think about the music and the fact that people continuously sample the same couple of songs over again, there is a wealth of music, songs, hits, good beats that could be sampled and flipped into new current music that would work. And it just feels like that the producers are very limited in range or what they're looking for, especially when you consider how many people have sold their catalogs and how many things are up in the mix for play, out for play to be able to be utilized. Just seems kind of interesting that a lot of songs get skipped over. LL is planning on dropping, I think, new music, and we know he did the Rock the Bells tour last summer. I'm often surprised that more artists don't tap into him or his catalog, especially he was a game changer. We know 16 single artists. Ed Lover mentioned that in there. So it's just an interesting thing when you look back at hip hop, especially as hip hop is 50 now. And, so much has changed, so much has evolved as far as the art form. When we talk about hip hop, do people still consider, what is it, the 4 or 5 arms of it? So there's breakdancing, DJing, MCing, and graffiti. I don't even know if graffiti still has a place in hip hop. I think art does because we see a lot of elevated art things, but I don't know if graffiti is still tied into hip hop. I don't even know if DJing is anymore quietly because we have moved away from the scratch. We want a good blend. We like good mixes, but are the things that were stand out from that time period, like a good scratch, like a good breakbeat breakdown, are those things still important to hip hop in this current era? I guess that we'll have to see. Speaking of new era rappers, Kodak Black was arrested for possession of cocaine and other charges. He's currently being held in a Broward jail and was hit with tampering or fabricating physical evidence, an improper stop, and more. Now, remember, a few people were upset that Noor on his Drink Champs podcast let that interview be released and didn't kind of intervene when Kodak looked like he was, not well and definitely on something, right? And people often look at him like, yo, you got a whole presidential pardon and you still are not pulling your life together. You still are not making better choices. But as we've talked about with other subjects and topics, not one-to-one and related to this, but in similar fashion, does he have a bunch of enablers around him? Is there anybody in Kodak's life that is telling him, yo, you might want to chill. You might want to relax for a minute and make different choices? It doesn't seem that way because he continues to spiral. So hopefully he will be pulled together and, things will come together in a better form or fashion. All right. So, Friday is the new day for music drops. And there is a highly anticipated album that is dropping. It technically probably already dropped if you're, paying attention. But Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2 drops today, depending upon where you are. If you're on the East Coast, it's already Friday. But you know what I'm saying. It's out. There are some features on it. There are 22 tracks that are featured on it. I'm hearing Barbie Dangerous. Some people are saying that's really good. You've already heard Red Ruby the Sleaze, you know. Super Freaky Girl is on there. Nikki Hendrix is a song that features Future. She has a song called Blessings that features Tasha Cobb Leonard. Now, if you aren't aware, Tasha's a gospel singer. So I'm curious to check that song out. There's a song called Let Me Calm Down. It features J. Cole. And R&B, it features Lil Wayne and Tate Cobain. So there's a few more. She also reunites with Drake. There's a song called Needle. So, you know, we will be checking out Nikki over the weekend because we know Nikki spits. We know Nikki has a pen. She may have some help, but I'm curious to see what she's coming with, especially as she's been beefing with a lot of the artists that are out as of late. And we know Nikki is one of the few that has bars. So can she still bring it? We'll have to see. All right, you guys, I appreciate you so much for clocking in as you always do, VIPs. As I've mentioned to you, Thursday is my Friday, and we have some interviews coming up from the film Candy Cane Lane, which is on Prime Video, stars Eddie Murphy, Tracy Ellis Ross. Before I prep you on those interviews, let me get a few of these comments in the chat out of the way. Forensic Accountant says, Rakim has one song that still scares me to death. It's Prophetic Stance, Casualties of War. He pretty much predicted 9/11. Anouk Carswell says, yes, they should be. And T.O. Moss says, how many times did Rakim curse? Once or twice. He has a laid-back flow, cadence, and was a game changer. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is Ed Lover said Rakim had that he wasn't, well, no, he said that he was less aggressive or that he was more aggressive. I can't remember. I feel like his voice commands an audience. He very much sounded like a man. And in that, I think that there's a natural aggression that comes along with it. So that is kind of my thoughts on that. But I never thought about Rakim being a trailblazer, but I'm with that. It makes sense. So listen, when we come forward on the other side, you're going to be hearing interviews with the cast of Candy Cane Lane, DC Young Fly. He plays Josh. You're also going to be hearing from Jillian Bell, who plays Pepper, and Chris Redd, he plays a character named Gary, and Robin Thede, who plays Cordelia. If you have not checked out Candy Cane Lane, it's a cute Christmas movie, has a little twist in there, a little dark side, and spoiler alert, it is based on a place located right here in Southern California where they definitely have battles over Christmas decorations. I appreciate you all. Make sure that you are back here on Monday, 9 p.m. for RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app so you can hear those interviews. All right? Be good. Have a great weekend and an even better night. I'll see you on the other side.
Follow the leader, Rakim was saying. 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 Follow the leader.
This is a lifetime mission, vision of prison. I listen. In this journey of the journal, I'm the journalist. Am I eternal or an eternalist? I'm about to flow long as I could possibly go. Keep you moving cause the crowd says so.
Here's to a holiday season full of peace, joy, and happiness. Happy Kwanzaa from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.